In this video, we will use MindFusion Java trace tool called HyperDebug to detect a problem with a simple Java application. Let's look at the single source file of the application. As you see, the application uses the Apache log4j API to log data when the application starts. The log4j2 XML file tells the Apache API what to log is a simple one. It prints the current date and time to the console. We use Gradle to build the app. We have prepared a bat file that starts the application, and now we click it. The application starts, but no timestamp is printed. Well, we have clearly indicated that we want the time log. What we'll do now is we will use MindFusion's HyperDebug tool to see where the problem is. We download the profiler from MindFusion's website and unzip the archive. In the HyperDebug folder, we see all jar files used by the tool. We will need them because we want to use the tool in command line mode. We open the online documentation for HyperDebug and check the section regarding command line usage. We see that we will need to prepare a config file that will tell the agent what data to collect. First, we are going to copy the Java profiler files to our library folder. Then we will use MindFusion free XML tool to create the config file required by HyperDebug. The config file needs to include a project tag name and format attributes. These can be any value that you want. Then we add a description tag and a parameters tag. In the parameters tag, we can put 3 more tags, and we will use 2 of them. One is for the install directory, and the other for the output directory. We name it HD Data. Next, we add another group of tags, trace. We will use here the trace parameters subtag, which we set to yes. We will also use the classes tag that tells HyperDebug which classes to log. We want to log info about classes that start with org. Now we need only to save our config file and we place it in a new directory. Let's call it static. The file name will be hdconfig. Now we need to prepare another batch file that will start our application, but with the HyperDebug agent attached. We check the documentation about the syntax. We need to point to the location of the agent. Ours is in the library dir. We also call the batch file that starts the application itself. So we start now the tracing, and we see that we have a new HD data directory. In it, we have two CSV files. Let's check them. The first one is called traced calls, and it lists all calls to all methods together with the type of parameters. Note that we don't have any information about the call parameters other than their type. We nonetheless search for the log4j2 file, but there are no entries. So we open the second file, traced calls data, and search there. There are many entries, so we add .xml, and here is the first match. Interesting. The match lists path to a log4j2 file loaded by the application that is located in the config directory. Let's open this file. Here it is. It surely does not list any data patterns to be logged. Let's search for other occurrences of log4j2. There are many, so let's directly search for the log4 file that was in the resources folder and that had the data logging settings. There are none. So, we found the problem. There are actually two log4j2 XML files, and the application starts with the wrong one. Thanks to HyperDebug, we were able to identify the problem, and we could quickly find why the wrong file was called. It was provided as a parameter in another batch file, which was called by the initial batch file that starts the application. And that's the end of this demo. You can find a link to download the sample application together with the HyperDebug agent in a link listed in the video description. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your interest in MindFusion developer tools.